So looking at the graph that we made of these maximum speed limits for the 50 states in the United States, we can clearly see that there were a very small percentage of cars or trucks that had the maximum speeds at the lower limits, like 55 and 60, but that the majority of our states had maximum speed limits for cars and trucks that were upward of 65 and 70 and 75 miles per hour. So what we did there was we calculated our percentages, also known as relative frequencies, based upon the grand total number of cars and trucks represented in our data set. One other thing that we want to be able to do here in lesson 3.1 is we also want to determine what are called marginal distributions or marginal percentages. So in this next example, we've got a categorical variable, car or truck or vehicle type, and we've got a quantitative variable, maximum speed limit. It's numerical. And let's say we're asked to calculate the percentages based upon marginal totals for speed limits. So in other words, within each of our columns, speed limit 55 miles per hour, 60 miles per hour, and so on, what percent of those cars and trucks had within the 55 mile an hour maximum speed limit were cars and what percent were trucks? And do the same for all maximum speed limits. So for instance, there were four total states that had a maximum speed limit of 55 miles per hour. None of them were cars. So 0 divided by 4 is 0%. All four of them were trucks. So 4 divided by 4 is 100%. So these columns should all add up to 100%. So if I do the same thing with my maximum speed limit of 60, of the four states that had a maximum speed limit of 60, one of those values was for a car, and 1 out of 4 is 25%. 3 of them were for trucks, and 3 divided by 4 is 75%. So again, notice they add up to 100%. 65 miles per hour, there were 38 states, cars and trucks, that had a maximum speed limit of 65. 18 of the 38 were cars. 18 divided by 38 is about 47%. 20 divided by 38 were trucks, and that's about 53%. So again, notice they add up to 100%. 18 out of the 31 had a maximum speed limit of 70 were cars. So 18 divided by 31 is about 58%. 13 divided by 31 is 42%. And then for 75 miles per hour, 13 of the 23 were cars, and 10 of the 23 were trucks. So now this is going to be a little bit more telling about what's true of these maximum speed limits for the states, and it's going to better allow us to compare cars and trucks. So what we can do is draw a bar graph where we have the bars side by side. So we could have a car bar and a truck bar for 55 miles an hour, a car bar and a truck bar for 60 miles an hour, and so on. But a more commonly used bar graph for data displays like this is one that's called a segmented bar graph. That's where the bars for 55 mile an hour maximum speed limit build on top of one another, and they build on top of one another for 60, for 65, 70, and 75. So what do we do? Well, thinking about the 55 mile an hour speed limit, all of the all of the vehicles that had that maximum speed limit were trucks. So there will be no cars represented for the 55 mile an hour max because there were none, no 0%. But for the 60 mile per hour speed limit, the bar for the cars is only 25%, whereas the bar for the trucks is 75%. So let me kind of explain this as I display my segmented bar graph. So look at the 55. My trucks I colored in red, my cars I colored in blue, and we're going to be learning about how to do this in Minitab here on Friday. But for 55, there were no cars that had that max speed limit, so the entire bar for the 55 goes up to 100% and is red for trucks. But now move to 60%. 25% of the vehicles that had that maximum speed of 60 were cars. So notice the blue bar is reaching a height of 25. The remaining 75% of those vehicles were trucks. So from 25 plus 75%, that takes you to 100%. And so you can see that the red bar is 3 times the height of the blue bar, which it should be because 75% is 3 times 25%. For 65%, let's go back to our table again. We had 47% that were cars, 53% that were trucks. So notice the blue bar reaches a height of 47%. And then if you add the 53% to that, then that takes the red bar to the height of 100%. For 70%, 58% were cars. So notice the blue goes to a height of 58%, which means the remaining 42% is for trucks. And the same for 75%. So now we can see in this segmented bar graph that as the maximum speed increases from 55 to 60 to 65 to 70 to 75, we're seeing a greater proportion of cars that have that maximum speed limit, and we're seeing a smaller proportion of trucks that have that maximum speed limit. Because the blue bars are getting bigger as the speed increases, and the red bars are getting smaller as the speed increases. So let me know if you have any questions.